Welcome to the Exit Files. We've all heard about it, we all love to have them, and we really talk about it for days. But what do we really know about what it takes to get an exit, to get that billion-dollar acquisition, or to sell a company for 50 lakhs, 50 crores, or even 500 crores for that matter? The exits are messy, exits are never planned, but we always believe as founders and funders that exits are always just available. So today we want to uncover all the myths with this podcast series. We talk about what it takes to put together a venture that is worth an exit. What happens during exits? What happens when the ink is wet? What happens when the ink is dry? And what do founders do once everything is squared away? There is just so much to talk about. There is just so much that happens in an exit. So we're looking to uncover some shocking truths, break some beliefs, and we're also looking to set some new barriers, some new findings to change the paradigm, to talk about what it takes to exit a company. The series will only cover founders that have fully exited, and we'll talk about their journeys, talk about that exact moment when the signing is happening. I welcome you to a brand new podcast series from Artha, The Exit Files.
Well, welcome to a new podcast series that we're starting and with Artha Venture Fund, and we're going to talk about some very interesting things. People talk about unicorns, they talk about success, they talk about failure, but very rarely do people talk about exits. And that is exactly what makes the world go around in venture capital is exits. Because when you exit, you can always redeploy that capital. And today we have two people, and thankfully they have agreed to be on this show with me because I was part of their journey in some way. When they started, when they endured, when they lost, when they won, and then now today they're obviously what I would truly call dhande wale businessmen, right? I have Dinesh Kotha and Sripad Vaidya, both co-founders of ConfirmTkt, now part of the Ixigo group. Welcome, guys. I'm so glad you guys are here.
Yeah, thanks, Anirudh, for inviting us. Happy to be part of your show.
Happy to be the opening sequence of the show. But let me tell you what we're going to talk about today, right? Where obviously we have other shows and we talk about founder journeys and things like that. And I think those are very valuable. I think, Dinesh, you've been on one of these in the past. You were in the Damani talks with me. But what we haven't talked about is the exit. I know I was part of it, and a lot of this exit actually happened during COVID, so most of us did not even get a chance to meet each other. But quite honestly, the idea for this show came up about, I think, a year ago, when you and I met after the IPO of Ixigo, and I could not make the IPO success party that happened in Bombay. I could not make the bringing of the bell. I wasn't in town. But we started talking about the exit and what happened to you after the exit, and I thought, what? This is invaluable information. I don't know how many founders actually realize what happens once an exit does take place. Everybody wants to talk about it, but it really is a surreal feeling. And I felt that when we had that conversation, it really something took place inside of me. And I said, what? This is a story that needs to be told. And thankfully, thanks to Shark Tank and also the mainstream association that is taking place with startups, we're hearing more and more stories now. There are movies about Captain Gopinath's story with Deccan. But what about the exits that are not multi-billion-dollar exits, right? There's only going to be a Flipkart style $16 billion exit only happens once in a while. It happens once in maybe 15, 20 years. But there are fantastic exits like the ones you guys have had, right? I mean, this is the fantastic story. The two engineers, one earning roughly about ₹1 lakh a month, one sitting in the US, develops a platform for India. And today, each one of you guys owns roughly 2.06% of a 5,000 crore market cap company. A journey that would not have started if you had not started a scraping algorithm about 10 to 12 years ago, right? So that's the intent of the show. I really will focus a little bit about what the venture was, what you guys did, And I'm sure we can just do one podcast about the venture and how you guys never paid any server costs for 5 years, right? It's a story I always reiterate to founders. But we'll also get really deep into today, like, what did it take to get an exit, and what all things had to be aligned to get an exit, and most importantly, what happened after the exit, right? I think many things have changed. You guys have now become investors yourself, and I think you might understand and appreciate founders a lot more today than you did when you were founders yourself. So without further ado, Dinesh and Sripad, maybe one of you guys can take this question. What is or was ConfirmTkt?
You can.
Yeah, so I mean, it was more like we were trying to solve problems what we used to face. So we never used to get train tickets. So we thought, like, I mean, why can't we build something which we regularly use it, and we were actually able to build a logic on top of it, and we thought like it will be a utility app. It will not become a company, and we never imagined it actually. It will happen, but soon, like when we started getting the traction, everything changed. Then we started seeing the bigger picture of it.
And I believe for the first 2 or 3 years there was actually no plan. You just had a scraping algorithm. They were just scraping data, and then at some point you started realizing there is value to it, right? And then you raised, I think, 1.5 crores of total equity. I think 25 lakhs you raised from Praveen, and then about 1 crore that came from a group of angels, venture capitalists. I know Artha led that round internally.
Yeah.
And then after that, you raised another 15 lakhs from friends and family. So that was totally, I think,
Yes,
1.4, 1.5 crores a total raise. And the company got sold for about $10 million.
Yeah, I think it's overall it comes
Overall,
down
right?
to-
That's about 10 million. And then obviously part of that
Yes,
was
yes,
investors
equity.
getting paid out, part of
Yes.
it was equity. And then obviously your equity obviously has become much larger after that. Just tell us, what was the journey to exit? Because what were the numbers like? I think March 2020 was or Feb 2020 was actually one of your best months ever. And then March 2020 was also looking good. And then I think April 2020 was absolute disaster. So can you explain what happened over there and why that shift?
I think I still remember I mean government passed an order for 2 weeks everything needs to be shut down, kind of like only the offices, and we still thought railways will still keep running. So on the evening we ordered cool drinks for everybody. We had cheers saying let's meet back after 2 weeks kind of. And we didn't meet for almost more than 6 months to 1 year, I would feel.
Yep.
And then office started after 2 years kind of. But in general, when we were all sitting out of our homes, and every day we just to motivate team, I used to have morning calls, and then it happened. But we made calls to everybody in the industry. Everybody said ki in the last 200-300 years trains never got stopped, so don't worry about that kind of. And suddenly one fine day they announced that we are stopping it, and I almost got a panic attack. I would feel like it's almost
Because you had an insurance product on top of it, right? Not insurance, but technically an insurance product.
technically. I mean, I'm most important. The eye opener for me is like anything can happen in life, kind of. Like it's almost 6-7 years into this. I looked at my wife and all. Like they have been struggling. We've dedicated everything what we have for this thing, and you don't know, suddenly something can happen, and
Something you had zero control on.
you have zero control on. Then we went back to, even the team was also not sure what to do. If travel is stopped, what will we do? Then we did so many things, like we built games. At that time, Ludo was popular. We thought we'll launch Ludo inside the app. A lot of things we were doing, but slowly again it started coming back. And so then at that point also, we have been one major call we have taken is like everybody was cautious with marketing and all, and we decided like this is now or never kind of moment, and whatever money we have, everything we have put in marketing at that stage. And in 6 months we have doubled, and after 6 months again we doubled, kind of. Within 1 year we have crossed a stage where we are bigger than anybody else out there, and we have been growing at much faster pace.
This is around the time.
This is around the time.
Everybody else was thinking of
Ah.
scaling down. You were
we were
scaling
actually
up.
scaling up, kind of. Everything was coming cheaper. Google ads were cheaper because nobody was bidding for any keywords. Everywhere it was cheaper, and we felt like that's the moment I think we should better be gone.
Considering you only had 1.5 crores, you're bidding on Google ads. That would have been crazy.
So,
right?
so I think we were profitable by 2000.
Wow, that's the real myth,
So
right?
2000, we ran out of money in 2-3 years, I would say. I mean,
Yeah.
after that we had to sustain with our own money, kind of. So whatever money we were making, we were putting it back again. By the time COVID happened, I think we had 2-3 crores in bank, I would say. So
I think you had a crore cash profit in February 2020.
So and when we were within an year we have reached a stage where we are making very good cash out of 50 lakhs to 1 crore every month. We are again putting that money in the marketing.
This is pre-COVID you're talking about.
After first
During
COVID also.
That's a first COVID.
First COVID also. Then I think exit happened. I think I would say exit is something where it happened over a period of time. Me, Alok, Sripad, we were discussing before also. I think 2-3 years back also we met. There were multiple other companies also like MakeMyTrip and all. We were meeting them. So so one good thing I would feel is we were in touch with everybody. Throughout the journey, even though they are competitors, we were in touch. We were exchanging notes on what's happening with us, what's happening with them, kind of. Anything we can do to help each other, or definitely we are competing on the outside world, but there are a lot of forums where we used to meet or things like that. But so I think post first wave of COVID, I think just before the second wave of COVID, there was one discussion with Ixigo team, like can we do something, and there at the time also there was same discussion, like can we look at something where we make it bigger. So one thing we were sure, like Trains as a standalone has some limitations, because there is a third government entity involved, and there is always that limitations on your growth. Kind of at some point you need to also have other verticals too as this thing. So it became like a important step for us to take that, where you have Trains, bus. They were all, Abhibus was not done at that stage, but it was disclosed to us that it's also in pipeline within 6 months. So we'll create a larger entity where we'll have all the 3 in single thing, like
that
flights.
was the original idea, door-to-door, right?
Flights, bus, train, everything will be in a single company, kind of, and then it will be a very, very strong company, kind of. So then we discussed with you some of the other angels also, and should we do it or not? How are the terms, kind of, all of that we were discussed, and they also don't have money to actually pay us, kind of. They had to raise a venture debt to pay us. So it was a bold call even at their end to do that. They don't have money at their bank also. They took debt to actually fund this acquisition, and it turned out very well even for them, and it became like the combined leads 3x of the next person, kind of. It's
because it also became, they made them
the largest.
You all number 3 and they were number 4 in train bookings.
So it became like we became like number 2 after IRCTC, and then we are still dominating the next.
Let's not count IRCTC, because
then it's by that time we were number one, kind of number one. So
that really fueled the company into the next stage.
Yes. So being number 1 also adds a lot of credibility in the market also. So and it's a good exit, and there were during exit there were so many things that happened, because it's a COVID time. We were always everything happened online, kind of.
I believe that there was Alok and you guys had never met in person.
Yes, we
during
never
the exit phase.
I think we met after 6 months or 1 year.
Almost an year.
Almost an year was that. And there were challenges also. I think we had 40-50 angels, small angels also. Everybody needs to sign, and you can say some topic on that. Like
I think you were the one who had to coordinate everything.
So we had one person who was dedicatedly in Mumbai, and he was reaching out to all the investors, going to their homes during the COVID, and people were not that comfortable to actually allow someone in.
Right.
So that was
I think there were instances where they told him to drop your paper under the door. We'll sign and then send back. We don't want to see you.
Did it come back wet because somebody has sprayed all kinds of disinfectant on it.
So there was all weird things, and some investors like I think they were stamp duty. I think 100 rupees I won't be giving. You only go pay and come back.
Because I mean, they don't want to get out of the home.
Right.
That's the problem. So we had to arrange.
How many
everything.
angels did you guys have altogether?
So we had 44 angels.
44 angels. Wow. And the smallest check in that?
Smallest check was like 60,000 rupees.
Wow. Do you when you look back at it now, and I always say that this whole angel.
No, but I would like to thank everybody. I think
I agree with thanking. I'm just saying when you have.
Huh.
If you think of the transaction cost of first raising 60,000 and then exiting 60,000, right? I think you must have spent more money than you would have raised.
But it was all coordinated very well, I would feel, because when we raised this round of funding, we were having only 3-4 months of cash. I think when we met you at that conference somehow, luckily, and we said let's go ahead, kind of.
Correct.
And we got money in 1 week, and we were confident.
Not
let's
even
move
3-4
forward.
months. It is less than a month. Because I remember we couldn't afford a flight. We came on a bus from Bangalore to Mumbai just to attend the Cox and Kings one, which you actually accompanied us.
Yeah, correct. I had introduced you guys at that time too.
Yeah.
I remember when we met, you said, "Hey, listen, I've come here to meet you only," right? And it was a very interesting platform. I think at that time, 100,000 MAUs.
It was growing at very good pace. I think we were also wondering, like, at some point we'll make money, kind of. At least that belief we've had, like, we'll jump in, we don't know, but people are using, there is some value we'll unlock at some point, kind of.
But do you feel like, and you mentioned this, right, that it was a bet for Ixigo to obviously acquire you, but in finance parlance, when you think about it, right, they were acquiring a company making 50 lakhs to 1 crore a month in cash. So it's much easier to acquire a company that is going to throw out cash than acquiring a company that is going to guzzle cash, which means that if I am already in a negative situation, you're actually alleviating the negative situation, making it positive. While the opposite is true, if let's say if I acquire a company and imagine you were ConfirmTkt and you're burning 1 crore of cash and I'm burning 3, now I have to burn 4. And technically, if I think about integration expenses, usually that goes to 4.5, 5.
Yeah, I think I would say definitely. Definitely, even now we recently acquired another food delivery company, Zoo. It delivers food in the train, kind of.
Oh, interesting.
So that integration is a good piece where it's a different piece where we are bringing the users and their technology we use, and eventually it became now the second largest in the food booking for the trains, kind of, after Zomato. So it's profitable is definitely one thing, but there is always that inherent risk of another wave of COVID might come. Correct. Or what if restrictions change? Or
but you were also not a very big team. I remember. At the
we were very.
I mean, we were in the same office at HSR for about until COVID. I think didn't change offices, and the number of engineers was the same. I remember the bathrooms were actually on the roof.
Yeah, we changed that. When we went to the new office, we felt this is a luxury for us.
That was the first thing we checked in the new office.
But I remember that it was. I mean, our conference room was probably smaller than this room. Actually, I think the conference room was half the size of this room. And people had to move out to go do programming outside so that we could sit inside and have a board meeting. So I remember, I mean, it wasn't like you all were spending money on some very extravagantly huge offices or
No, it was all good. I think we were also very frugal in all of that aspects. So I think it's a good match, I would say. Eventually it turned out well for all of us.
So what was the trigger for this exit? Were you all looking for an exit, or what was how did this whole transaction take place? Right, we never talked about that. Obviously, this happened behind the scenes. But were you out raising capital and then got acquired, or were you out there to get an acquisition and Ixigo showed up?
I think during COVID, I think we didn't focus on anything actually, not even funding or anything, because we were making money and we were running it ourselves, kind of. I think it's like one way they reached out to us. I think we were always in conversations, but in general they reached out to us saying how are the numbers looking out, and then when they found out that we are growing bigger than everybody out there, and then I think there is interest that got. I think then we had more conversation on should we go with this path? And we also discussed with the team on how do we do it kind of. And we felt like it's actually good for everybody because you have that partial exit kind of thing, and partially you still have your stake kind of for the future kind of. So that's what helped.
Yeah, I mean from the de-risking angle also, like because we were completely dependent on the trains business. What will happen? So COVID was one of the instances, and what if some regulations change, and it will come heavily on us. So once we have partnered with people like Ixigo kind of thing, then we can have that flexibility. And also, I mean, see, in terms of the probably, I mean, we never had a risk of like we going out of the cash, because during the COVID we had enough runway, and we had like plan C and D kind of. So it's like, I mean, so say like if the trains doesn't start within like 30 days, what should we do? But
Sripad, you would not think like this when I first met you.
Yeah,
you only had plan A, and that was the only plan that existed.
True. I think most of the things. I think in the initial first 1.5 year kind of what kind of conversations we had, we learnt a lot, mostly on like how to actually look at the things. Maybe like, I mean, whether we need to spend on the things or probably like, I mean, laptops was one of the things which
the air conditioner was the biggest question that I had.
Was one of the things. So I mean, many actually, I mean, I would say like those conversations has actually taught us like, I mean, how to look at the things and how to actually probably utilize the money what we have and how to plan the things.
I think one of the bigger money spinners, and I remember this, and I think that also played a large part in your profitability, was turning on Google ads.
Yeah.
That became a pretty big money spinner. And secondly was the API sales. Usually most founders, and this is because most founders believe when if I do Google ads, it actually reduces my value. Or if I do API sales, the way you
so
to Paytm.
First 2 years is where, but 2017 I feel is a turning point where we actually started transactions. So train booking is much bigger turning point, but we have survived due to all of this.
I'm saying these little, what I meant was these little things, right? Because you don't realize in the larger picture, but if you realize if we didn't have Google ads, I think at peak it was making, maybe towards the peak was 5-6 lakhs, but initially it was just, I think it was $1,000. I remember the first was like, there's $1,000 there, and then suddenly it became 1,500, and slowly it started increasing. Then some people started paying us for promoted ads or banner ads, right? And I think the real money spinner was when Paytm was it, right? That came in and they said, hey, I want, can you give us an API to this thing? And I think the minimum at that, and by that time you guys had become pros at actually negotiating. The first number you would negotiate with them was already 1 crore, right? For an annual kind of a thing. And I think
5 lakh a month kind of, I think.
Minimum API, but the billing came out to be like much higher.
Kind
right? I think those things actually start adding up in the longer run, right? When transactions happened, yes, of course, transactions are the whole conversation was, if you didn't do transactions,
true.
What is ConfirmTkt? But the point is, these little revenue streams, even if they're taking care of, let's say, $1,500 a month over here is $18,000, covers the cost of roughly 1.5 to engineers, right? Or covers the
at
cost.
that time, though, our entire burn was 5-6 lakhs kind of. So we were just breaking even.
Exactly.
But I think there were days where, I think 2016 is that period where people don't know what we are doing. We were just making money every month, and then that's just breaking even. That year we just survived kind of. We don't know what next kind of. 2017 when we started transactions is where everything we again got into the next orbit when
because the magic happened. Earlier the requirement to get train bookings, there was a much higher net worth requirement, and then
and also these things I would say really helped. Geo getting into picture, and so everybody got that
everybody got a phone in their hand,
data and UPI. Now everybody can pay online kind of. These two actually helped. I don't know if this would have been successful 5-10 years back, or because it's that ecosystem also evolved at a faster pace. Kind of
perseverance is required.
Definitely.
Right? But the point is you have to survive to get to perseverance. Right? If you die in the middle of the desert, nobody knows.
even for Ixigo, I would say, because 18 years they were into business, but only in the last 4-5 years where you see everything moving into picture.
I mean, you had the third magic for you was obviously when IRCTC allowed you to become a booking platform. Otherwise, you weren't even in the qualification for the longest time.
I met CMD and she says, not the current one, the previous one. She said ki my daughter always uses ConfirmTkt, and that was a good moment where you feel like
that was a big thing for us. Is that whenever we spoke to people, especially who did not live in the city that they were from, they knew ConfirmTkt.
Yes,
and I think even IRCTC at some point tried to launch their own prediction algorithm, and yet ConfirmTkt used to perform better than them, which was very interesting because IRCTC was using actually its own data and probably had more access to more data than you all did, but it's still ConfirmTkt was way better. So now let's talk about a little bit about this exit, right? So imagine, how did you guys negotiate? What was the negotiation like? Did they make a first offer? Did you make a first offer? When did you involve the lawyers? What did it take?
No, we didn't involve any investment bankers as such, but a lot of negotiations happened over video calls itself, but it was more definitely it was very tough also, like we wanted this much definitely stake or things, or
your
cash
stake
also,
your stake in Ixigo.
our stake as well as because we wanted because actually we were not looking for an exit, so we don't want everything to get diluted at this stage only, so that we want something to be there to be done over a period of time, so we still have that energy to drive this kind of. And at the same time we also talk to the angels, like what you are looking out for, like how much cash or things like that. And
at that time, cash would have been king because
cash definitely. Everybody was like, we don't want any equity, complete cash. So okay, we need.
Hey,
to
I asked for equity in Ixigo.
I
have an email proof. I asked for
you were asking, but the thing is, again, they were like, if we are exiting, let's exit everybody. That's one rule they have passed in. Like, and then we had to check with everybody and finalize a few terms, and even
let's take one step before. I'm just trying to understand, like, when the first offer came in, was it the offer that was made by them? Was the offer made by you?
So it was like, they had limited cash with them,
right?
So they told like this is the max we can do. So it was mostly like, whether you and investors want to probably like make some money, or it is up to you how to actually like build a structure out of it.
And you said you were not actively looking for an exit, Sripad. So what did it take? And I'm talking now from the perspective of, let's say, acquirers who are watching the show and listening in. What did it take for Alok to offer to you say, you know what, okay, it's okay to end this journey, and now let's become part of a larger journey, or let's see that we can make this into a larger journey together. What does a founder have to offer another founder to be able to convince them to stop their own entrepreneurial ambitions and join their own entrepreneurial ambitions?
See, I think one motivation what we had is like, because when Ixigo came up with the offer, right, they don't want to acquire 100% of the company.
Achha.
And so it was like, the structure would be like, for the 4 years they would be acquiring a smaller pie of the company, so that like 100% they merge after 4 years. So we still had the skin in the game. We thought like, whatever it is, we will still run the company.
Every year they would acquire that money was based on some multiple. So you would obviously get an upside.
Profit keeps increasing.
Okay.
So there was a risk and reward kind of thing for us. So that was actually one of the motivation for us to actually be in. So that like, if you are able to like stabilize this and probably like take it to a level which is like good enough, then we are onto something big.
And also this, most important, they're also valued us a lot. This side, like
how do you do that? Let's say.
So most important is like, how do you give that, introduce their team in such a way that we are equal, kind of, not at a stage that they are acquiring us.
That's always usually becomes a problem, right?
That's always becomes a problem.
Getting acquired entity.
And imagine this situation where we became CEOs of their team also, entire Trine's team came under us also, and that's also a tricky situation to gain their trust also. And eventually, mutually, there's a lot of respect actually, even if you feel.
You think that was Alok and his team?
Yeah.
The founders were very critical
in making that happen, and they saw it like in the last 3-4 years. They saw how well we were executing stuff, and now everybody there also respects us in such a way that let's say
immense amount of respect. Obviously, the whole journey.
let's say an AOP number we give in this Feb, like in end of the year, we last 4 years we never missed that. Let's say this is the revenue, this is the profit. You declare something. In between there will be a lot of ups and downs, but the end of the year we definitely make sure that's achieved, kind of. And there is a lot of immense respect when you do that. Even for the public markets also, I feel that I think we should do in that fashion where you promise something and you keep delivering, and they will definitely reward you over a period of time. You don't need to worry about that kind of.
No, I think that's so critical now, right? I think getting into that, because I think compliance-wise, ConfirmTkt rarely had any issues. I remember that obviously having Praveen on board, and it's a very strong board representation that we used to have. Did that help eventually when you get acquired? Now, and we'll talk about the whole thing about going public, but did that help that you were already in this, habit?
One thing we were missing out is getting audited by a Big Four auditor.
Huh.
I think that involves some money. That's where we have not. But Ixigo was more process oriented, definitely,
correct.
and it actually we felt very good once we started integrating. And
it wasn't a complete surprise to
Yeah.
be. And I think again, to your point, I think usually startups should start looking at not just Big Four, maybe Big 10 or Big 15. I would say the big top 15.
I think that actually
after Series A.
it took us a bit more longer time than we thought. Actually, 5 to 6 months to analyze all five. It would have been easier if we had.
So it was more like, we had a very small team who were managing everything. So I had one more guy who was managing finance.
Yeah.
That's it, and we had an outsource function. So when Big Four actually started expecting I need this and that, right? Nothing was ready actually. But overall, when we were able to finish the due diligence in about I remember about October we started, and January end we were able to close the due diligence.
That's amazing.
So it's about 4 months. But one good thing was there was nothing major compliance kind of issues which we saw. So that has actually helped us, because from the initial days we were actually very cautious about those things. Especially we used to discuss those in the board meetings, right?
One thing I feel founders find it so
yeah.
difficult, and I'll even name Byju's for this, because they find it so difficult to complete audited returns in the same year.
No, it's also one thing we both of us, when we were exiting, we still had 70% both of us, but we always treated it as not like our personal thing, kind of. Always, even just to rise our salaries, we always used to come to you or Praveen that this year we want to rise it by 50,000 or things like that. So everything was very much compliant. We never treated it in such a way that I see few examples of founders they using it like their personal company kind of, but it's general. It's very much important that it's an entity that you need to respect it.
And it's like we did not had that luxury to actually think about those things. It's like whatever it is, this is it is. So we had to manage everything, and we were looking for the best possible way actually to keep it compliant and
and I think that you said a very critical thing, Dinesh, in very simple words. Actually, I think you have to understand that you and your company are different, two different entities, and you cannot use or rate the company. I would say that as if it's your own personal fiefdom. It needs to have its own culture, its own individuality, and I think that, and therefore making sure it's compliant. And I'm probably shouting out at there are some founders who believe that compliance needs to start from day zero.
That's also an issue,
right? Because then they'll have their audited accounts done by June 30th, or they will actually make sure by every board meeting happens, and then you'll have some that compliance is an afterthought, right? It's looked at as it is an impediment to my growth to have compliance. And I know companies, without naming some, but some of them are in the media, like a Byju's or something, which will take 2 years. Like FY23 accounts are now being audited in FY25. Meanwhile, you have no idea what happened in FY24. And I think when these companies go for acquisition, it becomes very difficult, because now you have to literally unwind years and years of data, put things together, and therefore sometimes some of these M&As, and I've been part of them in the past, where we've had company getting acquired, and then they realize that it takes 10, 12, 11 months, 15 months sometimes to complete DD, because guess what? All the data is all over the place. And you did your DD, I think October 2021 is when you started? 2020.
2020 we started, and Jan 2021
all COVID related stuff, and still being able to complete it in 4 months. That's hats off to what you guys had built over there. Now let's talk about the moment. right? Now let's say, the guy running around Bombay getting things signed has got things signed, everything is in, and now final signatures are going on, right? What's that feeling like? Were you guys the last ones to sign on the document? Who was last to sign?
No, we signed, but I mean, still, I think till the last minute we were. I mean, that still comes in the mind. Like, do we really need to do it or not?
What was coming to mind? That's what I want. That moment. Let's talk about that moment.
That was right. I think. Can we make it bigger by ourselves, or is this a right decision or not? Is also one thing.
So actually, I'll just talk about that.
Dinesh just went into memory land.
So it's like, I think we had like 3-4 crores in the bank account, looks like, during that time. So we had a other plan, like probably why shouldn't we think this way, that because anyway whatever we put in the marketing, within like 2 to 3 months we were actually getting in, max 4 months kind of. Okay. We'll put everything into this. We'll probably make the same cash, like 4x or 5x of it, and let's do an SME IPO.
Yeah.
That was in our minds actually.
You were 2 years too early, but it would have been a big IPO.
I mean, but there are always risks. So one thing we always felt is like, there are two paths in, definitely, right? One path is, if you're taking the path of, if you want to run it independently, then you need to dedicate your entire life.
Correct.
Right. If this is the route, at least you have that option, that if you want to start something, or if you want to do something for yourself or something, that there is an opportunity here. Else, it is always dependent on you, and you can always build it like a family business, and it can grow. Yeah, and also one more thing that came into our mind is like, let's say 10 crores at the age of 30 versus 100 crores at the age of 40. Which one is better, right? We always were thinking.
We achieve both.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
No, I see. And I was going to bring in the question, right? How much was the conversation within the family? You both are married. I think both of you all had you had kids. You had at least a kid, if not kids.
Second kid also by the time.
Second kid, right?
So at the family they were. They were supportive in the sense, like, do what is best for you, kind of like.
But how much does that play in your mind? I've got responsibilities now.
That's also during COVID we had that risk, like, you don't know what will happen, kind of. So we thought partially exiting is also a good thing. Even for the employees also, we gave partial cash and again equity in the Ixigo, kind of. So that's that actually also played a role, I would say. And I don't know, the way we think, everything changed after exit, I feel. Everything changed. I think the way we think it. Let's say.
What was the final conversation between both of you? Like, we're going ahead, not going ahead. Like, or like, was one person like, okay, like, Sripad like, let's do this, and Dinesh is like, yaar, Sripad, should we really do this?
No, I think both of us had that mutual understanding that if one of us take decision, the others will stick to that, kind of. If even the conversations with Alok and Rajnish also, sometimes I talk, sometimes people talk, but we were just updating out after that this is what happened, and we have agreed on.
Did
this.
Alok or
agreed on this?
Know about your, that you were contemplating not doing the transaction? Was there any final things they had to do to convince you?
That's there in everybody's mind. I think they also want it to be done as soon as possible, pushing all the DD guys that let's get their signatures as soon as possible. All of that happens definitely we talked to other people also at the same time, not only this. We thought
who gave you the critical piece of, like, who was that? What was that one profound maybe knowledge somebody gave you that really helped you? Again, like I said, it's like getting into a marriage. Let's put it that way, right? Like, when you're getting married, there is that one moment, like, should I get married or am I better as a bachelor, right? It's probably comparable, right? But because at this point you literally are ending a journey. Once you sign that document, there is no going back. And I think this is where that moment, that's a moment of indecision, or like, in sales, we always say that when the person holds the pen to sign, just before he signs, there is about half a second where his mind says, hey, have you thought of everything?
Yeah, so I think being in Ixigo has been very fortunately we were still owning some piece, and we are still continuing the journey, and we are able to be part of growth. But Yeah, it could have been other way around where it's just a single one-time kind of
Correct.
component and you just completely cut off from
Yeah.
that. So we've chosen. I mean, this path is still better, I would say.
In hindsight,
in hindsight.
Yeah. But maybe in
But-
SME IPO and you own 70% of, let's say, 1,500 crore firm.
I mean, you can. There are always these things. Like, I mean, you can always. But even now, I feel like I can make 5x being here than going outside. Kind of. If I keep driving this much bigger, right? So, just the vertical we are owning itself it's a 500 crore revenue vertical kind of. It's large, very large piece. If you keep
And when
growing
you got
it,
acquired, how much was the revenue at that time?
it was 20 crore. 20 crore.
20.
kind
So
of
it's a
confirmed.
25x growth.
So, I mean, now we are combined Ixigo also. I mean, they were half of that when Ixigo
So
tried
90% of M&As fail. This is a statistic. Obviously, yours has been successful, so you're really one part of that 10%. And then you've also acquired another company, and I believe Zoop is also doing very well, which means now you've got the 10% of a 10%, which is 1%. When you were acquiring Zoop, what did you do that was that you learned or maybe imbibed from the way you got acquired?
No, I think Zoop is a different conversation.
Acha.
Where I think there it's more for. I mean, they were also into business for last 10 years. Kind of, they were into business, and primarily it was more like we have the user base. If we add this a revenue channel that we are going to unlock. Whereas ConfirmTkt is a different. Parallelly, even if you don't do anything, it will just grow by itself. These guys can run it kind of. But here we need to give that users, and so that's one different context altogether. But I would say this is. I mean, it's okay, kind of. There is still some way to go. It's just very early to comment on that.
What I meant was like, I'm not even talking about the success. I'm just saying that when you're acquiring a company today, let's say what have you taken from your experience that you're possibly able to convince?
It's mostly about people, right? The top management. How do you value them and give them that upside as you keep growing? That actually worked out, I would say. Even when they acquired Abibus, also the same worked out. Now Abibus founder, he left and he started another company, FreshBus. When he started FreshBus again, Ixigo said, okay, we'll put in that startup seed capital kind of, and he did that.
So I think what you're saying, and this is where most M&As fail, is that that let's say you acquire a company and it works, the company is working well because of a certain culture in that company. Most companies, what they do is when they acquire the company, they want to bring in their culture into the company, which destroys the culture that made that company.
Yes.
Right? That's usually the reason why M&As don't work. In your case, and I think what you're explaining is that you acquire a company, let that culture be.
Yeah. So they
Let that
didn't
be its
disturb at
independent
all
culture.
anything.
Yeah.
No, for 3 years, I think they did not even nothing happened. No processes of Ixigo were put into picture. They were said, you run it by this, the way it is.
And
run
also,
it.
I mean, as a founder, right, one motivation what usually people have is like, whatever you have built, it is still continuing actually. So usually in some M&As, they will kill the product.
Exactly
They will
the
kill the
point.
brand.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, most of them, they don't like it, but if they have to do it, they will do it actually.
And I think that's the difference over here, right? That you can even the way here at Abibus is his own entity. So it's a group of companies working with each other, but there's no requirement for them to all adhere to what Ixigo and Ixigo's policies are. I think that's most places where M&As have failed, right? If you look at all the big unicorns that have acquired tons and tons of companies and then they sell them for there are companies that get bought for 250 million, then get sold for 40 million, kind of a thing. Why? Because you've destroyed the culture of the company, made it completely into a caricature, so there's nothing left in that, rather than just the brand. Okay, so we're gonna come now. Let's move to exit signing day has happened, right? First checks are coming in. You told me a story, and I want you to talk about it. I think the germination of this podcast with Dinesh is that dinner.
Yeah.
But I want to know, like, you signed the paperwork. I think payment happened a week.
First, investors got all the money.
Correct.
And,
in about a week, I think. After we signed, about a week, everybody got the money.
Yeah.
What was it like now that investors obviously messaging you back, say, hey, we got the money? I'm guessing everybody was pretty happy. I think rough multiples, everyone was about 6x.
Yeah,
6
so
to 8x.
investors were happy. I think by the time I did Damani tasks, I did not get money. I was waiting to wire in my money. I was
You have the money, but I don't. I'm just talking at this point.
So after that conversation, I actually messaged the POC at Ixigo.
अच्छा.
Ab to bhej do.
Sripad was like, let's get this podcast done and then we'll ask for money.
I mean, just like any middle class boy, it's still something in our mind, right? Are they going to give us or not? Kind of.
Oh, they just pick those guys up.
We have signed everything. Are they going to give money or not? Kind of. And then we got.
So your money came out a month later?
Not month. I think it
was
2 weeks. 2 weeks kind of. 2 weeks kind
What
of.
was the first check?
Around 4.5 year kind of that
Each?
we got, and
Each.
each. And
What
I
was
think
that
that was that was very very difficult moment. I would say I was not sure what to do or what to do in the sense like.
Did you see a message on your phone? What was it?
Yeah, I
like?
got
Yeah,
the
yeah.
message and I told my wife that I showed her like this thing and she congratulated. Then I went for a walk actually. Like and I thought
4.5 crore in the pocket. He's gone for a walk.
I thought somebody will rob me. I was very scared actually. I don't want to tell anybody in the apartment or anything. It was a different moment and Rupesh is where he said you should have private security. I don't know all of that thing and I think first time I felt that moment is very important. I would say when you did that. Post that even I didn't feel that moment again. Post that and
That 1 crore moment.
Yeah. That
They
was
also got the $1 million moment in the US, right?
Yeah,
That first time you see, and again, this was not money raised. This was cash, unencumbered, your own cash. Nobody else can take it from you. There is a moment. Suddenly, you are now officially a crorepati.
yeah.
Right? You're officially within the top 1 or 2% of this country that has that access to capital, and it is definitely a life-changing moment. It's a life-defining moment. I think the next time maybe when somebody wires 1,000 crores into your bank account, maybe that feeling will come back. But it's I did a podcast recently with Ashish Tulsi and we were talking about the same thing. Even in sales, for example, right? We're all salespeople. When you do your first sale that gets you $100,000 or it's $100,000 sale, there is a high. And the only thing I can compare it to is like the first time you smoke a cigarette, there's a high, right? You never get that high again. That's the only time you get a high. I think it's very similar to that. And then after that, again, I'm not talking about go and smoke cigarettes to get that high, but I'm saying there's a high there. And then it's a million. And then uske baad, when you do the next minute, like, I've seen this, been there, done that. Then it's probably 10 million. And then it's been there, done that. And it's 100 million. In your case, you're like, hey, 4.5 crores definitely has that moment, how do I emote? I have no idea. I've never experienced this before. How was it for you, Sripad? To see you both got the money around the same time?
Yeah, almost like a minute delay kind of.
Achha.
So I mean, he has sent the same whatever bank message he got to me.
And you're wonderful.
and even I got.
Achha.
So I sent the screenshot to my wife, my dad, everyone, and it's like I was actually staring at the same message for the whole night. Like because I did not see so much money in the bank account.
Wow. What was like? Tell us about that emotion. Your wife was not there with you at that time, is it?
So I actually went somewhere outside
Achha.
to pick up some groceries or something. So I got the message. Then I
Left the
called my
grocery.
wife.
Then go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, so as soon as I sent it. Like I'm just coming back home. We'll go out somewhere.
Achha.
So I mean, it was more like I mean, what will we do with such money? Because we never seen it. Kind of. I mean, it was like life-changing kind of thing for all the families kind of.
And then after that, there was another bigger check that came out later, right?
So I mean, they were, every year they were buying the remaining part of stake. There were 6 checks like that, but. One definitely thing that changed post that is like how do you think about everything in the life kind of lot changed I would feel and you value time a lot so lot of things now let's say I mean if there is this theory also. The famous person, he also says like, if something is taking half an hour of your time, you don't need to do that kind of.
Correct.
So, but in general also it changed a lot. Like what let's say if something is bothering you for let's say for ₹1,00,000 it is bothering you for. I mean, it's better to just spend that money and just
take care of it.
take it off it like. So a lot of such things changed, and I feel people started respecting more, I mean, especially in the family.
Until then,
your in-laws and all. Till that time, nobody was taking your
efforts seriously. Yeah, it's very much. It's a true thing about every founder, I feel. Right, until that big moment comes. It's a struggle.
It's a struggle.
That's where mental strength is required to be a founder. Is one of the most. I think being a founder is one of the most exhilarating, but one of the scariest journeys you can ever be on. It's like being on a roller coaster that's going to have multiple of those go around, but there is no safety harness. So you have to hold the seat, right? That just make sure you're holding on to the seat, because that ride is going to keep continuing. You also had a moment when you had to go to your village. You talked about that, right? And you felt, and I think you had received a larger check in your account, and you felt.
Yeah, I felt regular, but I mean, even there also, I felt security problem there and all. But in general, it was, I mean, definitely even including everybody, they started respecting you. That's one thing. But over a period of time, you develop into a better person, I feel. With money, you actually don't worry about small things in life.
Confidence changes.
You focus on bigger things, right? I think even with the team also, I think I remember days where we used to check minutely on details, 5,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees and all. Now I think the salaries itself are more than ₹1 crore just in the Bangalore office. So, I'm saying, let's say if adding some additional benefit to the people, if they are giving more value, that's more beneficial. I mean, it's all about bigger picture. That's what we are looking at. But the way you think definitely changes once you have money. That helped us a lot, I would feel. At the same time, my wife says that those days were better sometimes. You were at least there with me all the time. But
what does your wife say, Sripad?
I mean, almost a similar feeling. Like, but now I mean, so even both of us, we started spending some quality time with families. Actually, I mean,
you also bought your first house after that.
Yeah, I mean, almost at the same time.
Same time.
Yeah.
What was that like? And you paid. I'm guessing earlier would not have been able to afford the kind of house.
So I think
and today you paid cash.
The first time when I went to that community and he took me on a tour, I was like, am I the one entering here? Kind of. It's a large villa community. And,
Adarsh or
I took in Vaishnavi community. It's near Adarsh itself. And then he's in Prestige. So everything is in Sarjapur Road. So nearby that.
Both of them.
Yeah. And it's a large villa kind of. So then once we completed the transaction, we sent photo to all the communities in the family and all. So it was a good moment, and
and it's like, I mean, not only us actually. So just before the exit, we had a conversation with all the employees that what is your dream, kind of. So some people told like I want to go on a world tour, and some people had just a small ambition kind of thing. I need to own a house, or I need to own a car. So I think with this exit, right, we were able to fulfill some of them.
Yeah.
So I think so an office admin, probably I think he would have made like close to 10 lakhs kind of.
Amazing.
I mean, his salary would be like somewhere 15 to 20,000 kind of.
So 10 lakhs in one shot. Yeah.
So we were able to like fulfill some of. I mean, that actually brings us, satisfaction apart from the money what we have made. I mean, everyone we were able to like grow with us.
No, I think that's critical, right?
Yeah.
And I again come back and say that we didn't engage for a couple of years after this, and then I remember when you all were doing your IPO. I think Sripad, you reached out for ringing the bell And
IPO party,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I asked a message.
but unfortunately, I wasn't in town. And then I said, but as soon as I'm back, we'll catch up. And then we just could not get a time together. I think the day I met Dinesh, you were sick.
Yeah.
And what was really heart-touching and heartfelt that day, Dinesh, was that we had this conversation, and then we were leaving. You were like, hey, listen, can you drive my car? Right? And it was a Q7. So I just bought it. I said, no, you drive. No, I said, he said, no, I want you to drive it. And we drove around. And I may have driven many Audis and many nice cars in the past, but truly that driving that car was the most satisfying moment. Because I remember when the journey started, right? The guys were the same. The only difference was the confidence, right? And what happened with the exits and what the money we even talked about. Now you're not only entrepreneurs, you're angel investors, and you're giving back to the community. And that's the whole circle that we keep talking about. If you had to do ConfirmTkt again, right? What would you change?
So I mean, we'll start looking at the revenue from the day one. I mean, how to make money at least.
From day zero.
Yeah, because that was the piece which was missing, because we had users, we had a good product, we had a good team, but that piece was something which we were struggling for like almost like 3-4 years.
One thing we realized is like making money is a lot different than making people happy. So I think we were 100% obsessed on making everybody happy. I think in mid of our journey we realized that 5% of people won't be happy whatever you do. Kind of, you should ignore them and scale fast.
Yeah.
So that's where actually the turning point. And we started making money from the 95%. 5% will always feel that you're higher cost or I don't want to pay you kind of, but that's okay.
I'm
you ignore
surprised
them.
saying 5%. I feel 50%.
Maybe, but still I'm saying that's how you survive. I think we need to pay a lot of customer bills, or I mean there are server costs, employees. But one thing I'm very happy, because this industry doesn't exist before.
Yeah.
Somebody like OTA for train ticketing, and because we are not taking anybody's money here, not anybody's share. We are charging higher than what railways is charging.
Yeah.
So it's like making another business. Any additional service
And convincing them to pay a premium.
Pay a
I
premium.
think that to me is the crux here, right?
Yes,
You are convincing them not just to pay a premium, but also that the insurance product that now Ixigo uses even for airlines, which is saying if you have a confirmed ticket and you cancel, I think up to 4 hours in advance,
So
even before charting, we'll still refund all your money, and you won't have to pay anything. I think that was a money spinner of a product, but I feel many founders launch such products without the data behind it. You actually had real data saying, hey, even if we launch it and I remember when the month you were launching it, Sripad, you told me that even if this number of customers cancel, we'll still make a profit, because there's 90% of the people, or was it some data? Like
that? But the interesting thing happened. We are the first ones to launch the product, and COVID happened.
Yeah.
And 3 months into that, we had to run into loss, and we
had
but there was a
60 crore kind of exposure.
So that then government bailed us out, I would say, because
by giving the money back.
They gave money back to all the customers, and then it worked out. But in general, but there are companies which said ki we won't pay. They said ki they took that
force majeure
clause. They took for airlines and all. They took that clause, and then they said we won't pay.
Because many of them was a matter of survivability. There was no cash.
Yeah, that was time.
I had a trip planned to go see a motivational speaker in UK, and we had tickets booked, everything done, and the airlines just said that we're not going to refund the money. I said, okay, then I'm going to ask a credit card company to refund the money, right? Because and these were not small. I mean, you guys are a small company at that time, right? So and what I think really changes and tells a lot about you is that you still adhered to, or at least I don't think there was a single case where you opted for force majeure. So we'll refund the money.
Yes, we
and obviously, and that really builds the value of a brand. That in the toughest times,
we gave money before the railways gave us. So
I think the toughest times, that's what really matters, right? Are you going to balk at your commitments, or are you going to keep your commitments regardless of what situation? I mean, I come from family that comes from Dalal Street, right? And Dalal Street has this famous idiom, or a famous muhavra keh lo aap, ki something said on Dalal Street is like written on stone. It cannot change, right? And that's how stock markets operate, because it all operates on trust. Now, I sold you a share, and if I don't have that share, and you sold the share to Dinesh, and then Dinesh, you made a profit, Dinesh made a profit, but I never gave you the share, then the market can collapse, right? And that's how it all comes down to. But it's been I think what an incredible journey. Like if you, so you're saying when you go back, get to revenues faster, think about profitability. Don't just run after customer satisfaction or rather customer happiness. Satisfaction is important, but customer happiness does not translate into revenues and product, because the customer always wants things for free.
Yeah, and also I think one thing what we were able to prove is like, because initially when we started ConfirmTkt, I think we had discussed this in our board meetings also, that if you make 1 rupee from every user, we had 1 million users, we will make 1 million, I think. So making that 1 rupee was very tough. So when we were into
much
transaction,
tougher than what founders make it sound. Like you guys are all now listening to pitches, right? And you're like, I don't think you know what you're talking about.
No, I think even like, I still feel how bad we were with our assumptions that we thought once we have 1 million users, we'll have so much money in the bank kind of. But once we put the Google ads, then we realized that all our pitches were on US revenue dollar rate. In India. If you're making dollar there, here only 1 rupee you make here each click kind of. Then everything changed after that.
And it's like when I was talking to the users, we were charging 20 rupees higher than the ticket which ideally he used to get it cheaper on ISTC or other platforms actually. So some people, they straight away asked, when I used to take the customer support calls initially, even Dinesh used to take using the office phone, we used to take the customer support calls. So they used to straight away ask like, why you are charging more? Then we had no luxury of actually not charging the customer and discount it. Then we were like, okay, if you still feel that okay, whatever you are getting on the app, it doesn't even value that 20 rupees, we'll refund that. No one came back. That has actually worked like charm actually.
And I think many of these speakers talk about this, right? Tell them, listen, if you don't find value, take the money back. But people don't come back because they find the value. And I think, as you can see, this journey has really been, I think it's going to really impact, and I hope this episode makes it out to as many people as possible, because you've debunked many myths. One of which is you can scale a profitable product. And there's a myth, you have to burn to scale. There's no, I believe there is no correlation to that. And secondly, that M&As only happen, or M&As can only happen when you're burning money and you're stuck. In your case, making money and get acquired, because that adds to the P&L. It actually alleviates the problem for the holding company. And I think third is that customer happiness does not always translate into a business. Like I always say, dhanda dhande ki jagah hota hai. And happiness is in the place of happiness. I know when I did a podcast with the Ease My Trip, I think Prashant, what they do is that they take a percentage of the revenues and they put that into an account saying this is for customer happiness. So you can, as long as there's money in that account, you can make the customer happy. But other than that, there's no further money available for happiness. And I think that's probably a better idea than trying to make every customer happy, because I always go back to that. Customers don't know what they want.
Yeah,
Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah,
Henry Ford said it best, right? I think if you ask customers what they wanted, the customers would have not asked for a car; they would have asked for a faster horse.
Yeah, that's where
That's
every new product that we launch, that's what I feel like. Once you launch the product, then you can get insights. But with insights, you can never launch a product.
It's so critical.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. But maybe we'll talk about the journey now. But if you could just explain what do you mean by that in a more detailed manner, especially to a founder, right? That when you're launching a product, you can't always take the insights of a customer, right? You have to go with your intuition, gut, data, obviously, but not always will the customer tell you exactly how they feel, or maybe sometimes they don't even know how they feel. Because if you read the story of BlackBerry, customers never knew why they were switching to Apple. It's only years later you can now go back and say, Apple did this and this and this.
And unless you experiment that whether customer will pay for this service. For example, PNR prediction on our app, it was like free of cost. Now we started with a subscription. It is not free of cost. People are paying for it. Yeah. So until unless like you take that step kind of thing, which if you have to experiment with that.
Yeah.
So until unless like you'll not be able to figure it out just with the intuition.
No, great guys. I think let's talk about now the journey. Now it's been exits have happened. Now the IPO happens, and I had no idea you guys still own 2% of Ixigo, right? Because when we sat at that restaurant, I go, hey, so what's Ixigo valued at? And you go like 6,000 crores, and I said, how much do you own? You go, I own 2%. And I go, wait a minute, 2% of 6,000 crores is 120 crores, right? Like, wait, Dinesh, you're worth 120 crores, right? It was a moment of realization for me. Because again, an engineer earning a 1.5 lakh, 1.25 lakhs a month, to now somebody with a wealth of 120. I mean, the 120 is obviously your wealth in Ixigo, but you've obviously got other investments you've made, own a house. And today you're now like, listen, I want to start investing in other businesses. So tell us a little bit about this journey now. From here onwards, what does Dinesh, what does Sripad and Dinesh do? How long before you guys launch another venture? Or are you now thinking, hey, enough ventures, let's start backing other ventures and let's start backing other founders. Maybe we can use our knowledge over there versus trying to recreate a new company. What's in store? What does 2030 look like?
We haven't thought, or I would say, 2030 we have certain numbers in our mind that this is how the wealth should be. Or,
now the wealth should be there.
But in general, I always have the 10 years, 20 years kind of a roadmap, in the sense like the journey to that might be in different ways, but how do we do it? But there are certain paths you can take beyond that point, kind of beyond 2030 or beyond. So I think one thing that always keeps in my mind is how do you help people. There are a lot of people who have limited opportunities, right? I think that actually helped, something we wanted to do at that stage. I think not now, I would say, but in the immediate term we haven't thought anything like starting something or anything, but we've been continuously backing anything that comes to us. One thing I would say, we are not expecting any returns out of any of these startups, I would say, because if something is helping them to go to the next level.
Why is it that the smartest founders always say, and I think unfortunately not what financial advisors will say, that do not do angel investing to make money.
Yeah, I
this
think
is the exact same message that Ashish also gave on his podcast, that if you're investing in angel to make money, you're in the wrong business.
That, I don't know, it's very, very risky. I don't know if I would have invested in ConfirmTkt. Not making
Even
any
with
money.
all this money?
Not making any money, with only users, and these two kids doesn't know.
I still remember the first conversation what we had in Taj Yeshwantpur itself.
Yeah.
It was a speed dating of I think 2 minutes. Me and Dinesh were there, and we were pitching you. So I think only one thing, I don't know like what has sparked you, maybe like the multimodal thing, because you just said one thing that I think one of the biggest player in India wants to build this. You are onto this. I think probably let's talk.
Yeah.
So and now we are realizing, I don't know like what you actually saw in us. You were okay to invest actually.
What I really liked, and maybe I'll say that, is that I think I saw two honest triers, right? And you, by the time you had 100,000 MAUs, I think you had almost 1 million downloads by that time. I remember, and to you it felt like अरे तो कुछ भी नहीं है. And I was like, do you realize that the other, and this is, we're talking about 2015 India, not 2025 India, 1 million downloads is nothing. 2015 India, the entire online e-commerce ecosystem in India is less than 50 million people. You have 2% of them downloading your app and using them. This is in pre-Geo, pre-UPI, all these eras. And you're behaving as if nothing's happened. That means that they believe there is a much larger market behind this million that you truly believe. Like if you, I can tell you founders who come into my office today, and if you have the 1 million downloads, they'll behave as if they've got all of India. And I'm sure you see these days. You're like, yaar, ab to million kuch bhi nahi hai. The online economy in India is more than 500 million people. 1 million is nothing. But if you think about 10 years ago, did you even realize that you 2% of India's online economy was transacting, or at least visiting you prior to a transaction? That's a huge number. And I think that to me was like, yeah, and that's what I told even Praveen. I was like, Praveen was more of a founder than an investor. I think he was starting Better Place at the time. So, but I was like, do these kids not realize that if you just multiply $10 into 1 million, which is what we used to do as a back-end calculation for valuations of companies and app downloads, it's what $10 million, right? And I think that's really what got me in that moment. And I think we stood outside Taj Yashwant for about 15-20 minutes before my cab came in. Thank God for Bangalore and its traffic at the time, right? That took 20-25 minutes, and we spoke for a long time. And I said, if you just concentrate down this path, we'll figure out the revenue streams, and I will not invest unless you agree to revenue streams. I think that you and I had a very animated conversation about, people need to pay, right? And you were like, no, let's do it for free. I said, no, people need to pay. And I think they need to pay in some way. It wasn't that they have to always pay, but Google Ads is the way to pay. They have to pay in some way. And now I just love the fact that you're imparting the same thing back, that people have to pay, right? And even Facebook, which looks free to you, it made you pay. It took all your photographs, it took all of your data and sold it. So you may not know that you don't always have to pay out of your own pocket to pay, but you have to figure out how that customer is going to make you money, and there is always some way or the other. So now today, how many angel investments have you guys made? And do you guys make all the investments together, or do you also disagree on investments?
Mostly together.
Yeah. So very few, I would say.
So probably I think 10, close to 10.
Maybe
10. And what are you guys investing in these days?
No, in general, though, if the founder walks into our office and says, please give me, then we would give it.
After this podcast, be prepared. There'll be like a line outside.
So
there'll be a line outside the office.
There was one person who actually recently walked into our office.
I think the Avatar studio guys are like, wait, is it that easy? Right?
There was one guy actually. He brought his sister, father, everybody to the office. He's from a very low background kind of, and he wanted. And I was very surprised that he wanted to do, but he can't do kind of, and. Then we gave him check 10 lakhs on, and we said, okay, you try out, it doesn't matter it works out or not kind of. And he's very much happy, and he came with his father and took a photo with the check. That first time somebody's backing me kind of. That was felt very good about that.
I think it's more about people come with I'm building this, but things will be changed after 2-3 years. They will put, or it's only about founders. How motivated they are, and how capable they are. So that all changes the things. I think it's all about founders. That's what I feel.
That's all about the founders. Yeah. No, I agree. I think early stages is all about the founder, the product and all that. Like you correctly said, I don't even think any of us had the idea that this ConfirmTkt would become what it is today. No, great guys. I think.
You would have seen, right? The moment when Virat Kohli wearing the ConfirmTkt logo, those moments are a lot.
Imagine that, right?
Yeah.
The Indian cricket captain wearing the ConfirmTkt logo. Who would have thought? When we started, and the kind of budgets we had and what we were managing, minuscule little budgets that we had to manage, and we were every 5,000, 10,000 was being accounted for. But in the longer run, if you think about it, those little things, you now know your business inside and out. If I remember my dad used to actually even calculate the number of cups of tea being had in the office every day, and then you tally that against the monthly bill of the milk.
Yes.
At one point in his life, does he do that anymore? He doesn't. But he knew that if I have 60 people in the office and they're drinking tea twice a day, then there's some much milk is going to go out. So that pilferage cannot happen, right? And now once you have focused yourself on those little things, right, that staff knows that they have to focus on little things.
True.
When the founder has just this magnanimous view and thinks all big things, and everybody thinks big things, and nobody looks at the small stuff. And honestly, most times teams die or companies die because they didn't take care of small stuff. And I think you're the biggest example that scaling was never a challenge. Scale was never a challenge. How to make money from the scale has always been a challenge. How to manage the scale has been a challenge. So the takeaways, at least for me today, is it's not about the original idea. It is about execution. It is, when you took look.
I still remember there is another company, I don't want to name them, but they exactly started at the same time, the same idea.
A month before us.
1 month before they launched.
We talked about it a lot.
We had it in the. Because of my wedding, we didn't launch, but they launched it, and we had to hurry and launch. And then 10 years post, and I think we are 100x bigger. How can something?
And they raise more money than you. Way more money than you.
It does not. I don't know. It's more like how do you get great people on board, work accordingly, make changes. once in a while I even talk to him. He still asks me like, how did you grow and I did not grow, kind of question. And
What do you think was the reason?
I don't know. I mean, I always say it's execution, and there are a lot of things like, I mean, a lot of bold bets we have taken over a period of time, right? I think spending more money during COVID, or getting great people at right time, and focusing on things. I think what we did is like we've cut down everything else. Just once we figured out that this is what is going to make us money, we've removed all the ads on the app, no API sales, everything. This is what should be our day in day out situation. We ran something on our office computer saying our daily count of bookings.
Yeah, I remember that.
The moment it reached 1,000 that day, it was a good party, and then it reached 5,000, 10,000. Those were the moments. And recently it reached 1 lakh. Then we took everybody to Thailand last December.
Oh really?
Yeah. So
was it on a ConfirmTkt booking or?
Yeah, ConfirmTkt. I mean, everybody is so happy for that moments to celebrate, kind of.
Yeah, guys, I cannot stress more. This is one incredible journey. I don't know how many people have understood the kind of scale impact. 500 crores of revenue is, quite honestly, if you look at the impact on a GMV basis, it's probably about 30 times that, right? Because your revenues are only about 20-25 rupees per ticket.
So, I mean, I would say 8,000 kind of.
8,000, yeah. So 16 times that number. And yet you're in a very tough space where the maximum you can charge is 20. It's also mandated by the government. You can't charge, I think, 20 for that, and AC tickets are 40 or something.
Yeah.
So you can't do more than that. And in that kind of a market, to create a 500 crore business which is profitable, right? Hats off to you guys. I think first of all, congratulations. I really believe that this is what Indian entrepreneurship is all about, right? It's about the scale is there. Massive scale exists, but if you don't know how to charge that scale, the scale is useless. Right? You can have a billion non-transacting customers, right? And billion people can walk through your store, but nobody's buying anything. Then how does it matter? Or if they're buying and they're not paying you anything, then how does it really matter? And the fact that with that 20-40 rupee kind of a business, you've created a business that delivers profit, that delivers scale, creates an exit, created value, not just for yourself. I mean, you guys are both people now owning $20-25 million of personal wealth. Both liquid and non-liquid, but you created tons of crorepatis even within your own team, right? You've changed. I think all of these things really do matter, and I think it's been fantastic interviewing this moment. I don't think we had a chance to talk about this moment until now. I think and I believe that there is some great stuff ahead. When you think about if you guys continue for another 5 years at Ixigo, I can really imagine that this gets really big. I look forward to continuing this conversation. I'll have one of you guys again on the Money Talks. We'll come bring you guys in for Unplugged one of these days. But thank you so much. Any final thoughts for the audience?
And I think I always keep saying, right, don't give up on anything. Just chase your dreams, kind of. You just need to continue working. I think everything will fall. I think the moment we met you for the angel funding, we don't have money to get into the conference, and we were standing at the entrance.
Correct. I remember the conference.
So I had to call one of my friend.
And
so he has allowed us inside.
And imagine
that's jugaad right there. Right?
That did not happen, and we didn't have funding, and that we don't know. I'm saying you need to keep.
Standing outside
at least we came to that thing, and they said you need to pay 2,000 or 3,000. We said only one of us will go. I mean, we can't afford for both of us. Then somebody from inside said, okay, you don't need to pay. We since you are shortlisted for this thing, we'll make sure you go inside, kind of. Then they took us inside.
But showing up was half the battle.
Yeah,
right. Just show up to fight.
Because
half the time the other side won't show up. Right. So you have a very good chance of winning just by showing up.
You need to keep trying. You don't know what happens.
And it's like one thing which has worked all through our journey is like staying alive. Like whatever happens, so we were like
staying alive.
So resilient kind of thing. So we never know when the things will turn. So 2016-17 was a bad phase. We were able to like stay alive with all the employee support and family support. They sacrificed the salaries and all. And when we were like back in 2018 with full swing and everything changed. So I think that really matters. I think so any founder like so they just need to battle along whatever it is.
That's what I was saying earlier, right? And that I think you just have to survive, right? You just have to survive. Things will change. Imagine if when IRCTC changes their model, you're not alive. So it doesn't matter whether you were there or not there, right? But the fact that you existed and the fact that you had the opportunity, you had the scale, you had everything else, magic. Magic can only happen when the opportunity can only present when you're ready, right? I mean, and we all love cricket. I think all of us are cricketers here. You could have a half volley, but if you're looking the wrong way, right, doesn't matter where the half volley was because you're never going to hit the shot.
True.
So great, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I am supremely excited about the learnings from this podcast. I think we're gonna keep sharing this within our network as well. And I hope every founder that we invest in sees this podcast, because this is exactly how it didn't matter. You didn't build a $1 billion company, and you didn't have to, and yet you I think today you have more wealth in your own name and in your own stuff than many unicorn founders that I know, because they own a very tiny minuscule part of their overall company. And 1.5 crores, man, that's all it took. I mean, in that time, $200,000 to $50 million to two founders, plus all the exits and the amazing scale. That has to be absolutely a story that will blow everyone's mind. Thank you very much once again, and we'll look forward to seeing you, building out there. And and thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot.
Anirudh.